I'm sorry, but Fredo's really been disappointing.
Fam, this is Fredo's brother.
Okay. Well, he's a new Fredo.
He's the new Fredo.
He decided to tell a bunch of protesters that they should just stop protesting. And I'm talking about Andrew Cuomo, of course. And he basically went on this interview and he said, people are still out protesting. You don't need to protest. You won. You won. You accomplished your goal. Society says you're right. The police need systemic reform. It's just really condescending pasta. Society says you're right. You won. You won. You're done. When, as we're going to be seeing today, there are more killings. Yeah. Of unarmed black people. I mean, whatever people do, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. Even if you've committed a crime, you shouldn't be murdered without having a fair trial. And that's the whole point, that police are getting away with murdering people or being extremely brutal with them. And here goes Andrew Cuomo telling people that they won. There hasn't been anything really. I mean, Minneapolis is the closest thing we've come close to.
What is he saying? We won. What did we win?
I'm so confused.
Has there been a conviction yet? Because I've seen arrests before in the past, but I haven't seen a conviction.
No, just arrests. That's the thing. You can arrest all kinds of people, but at the end of the day, if you're going to let them go, if they're going to be able to get their jobs again, you're not really changing anything. And so this is why people are still talking about defunding the police. This is why people are still so adamant, because the system is so corrupt that you can't just cut the arm off. You have to go after the deeper injury.
You'll have to go after its heart, and you have to eat it out with a knife and a fork and stuff. You have to go to the serious systemic change. We have to really change things from the inside.
And if you watched General Hospital or Grey's Anatomy or all that crap, you would know, but you don't. So.
Well, I listen to you, fam. You're the TV doctor. You're a certified TV doctor.
Obviously.
So I listen to you. But before we get to the next part of this here like that, I think we should also eventually talk about what we need to really get and what's going on, how it's being co-opted, this whole situation. Sure. Where does the movement go from here and stuff? Because a lot of people go, what's the next step?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are people trying to co-opt it. It doesn't mean it's not real. It just means there are people like in the Democratic Party that are trying to co-opt it. Kamala Harris has come out and said a few, symbolic bullshit words on Twitter. Obama, another one. We're going to talk about Obama.
Yeah, of course. We have to.
But we have an opportunity to get these people to open up and understand who the real problem is. So we're pretty much in competition with the establishment right now. We have to really educate people on what's really the problem and what's really going on. Because if we just say, oh, this isn't real, this is getting co-opted, then what we're saying never gets heard. A lot of these people coming into this, they're just new. This is their first protest. They have never really been political before. So this is our opportunity to guide them. And I think more than ever, our voices have been strong.
You know, when Cuomo says he declares victory after the passage of the police reform package, no, victory for me is getting him out of office. Getting the elites out of office. Andrew Cuomo takes more money from more billionaires than any politician on the planet. Almost half of the billionaires on the planet give money to Andrew Cuomo. We did a story on this. We showed that it's disgusting. So for real reform, real victory is defeating him and getting somebody like a Cynthia Nixon.
Because he is like he works with the corruption within the police department. Yeah. So until you get those big fish out of there,
the people who actually benefit and profit from people being jailed, Cuomo takes their money.
100%. So fam, as you know, there have been other shootings and murders that have come to fruition, right? And so some of these are happening all over the country. Majorly right now, we're looking at 3 different cases. We're looking at Atlanta, Georgia. We're looking at Victorville, right here in California, and Palmdale. So let's start with Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so there was the police shooting of this unarmed man, and it was ruled a homicide. Okay, it was ruled a homicide right away because it was caught on video. And we're going to play the video here in a minute. And we're going to warn you guys, it's a little tough to watch always seeing somebody get shot at, but let me go down over here. This is in Fulton County, Atlanta, and the medical examiner's office, it's all the way at the bottom, Johnny, has ruled this death a homicide. It is Rayshard Brooks, okay, that's his name, Rayshard Brooks, and the autopsy conducted showed that he died from blood loss from 2 gunshot wounds, and he was 27 years old. And what happened was that he fell asleep, and he had parked his car as if he was going through the drive-thru, and he had fell asleep in the drive-thru area at Wendy's. So the Wendy's employee called the the police and said, hey, there's a man here that fell asleep. And the police came, they performed a sobriety test, and he failed the sobriety test. And then they tased him, right? And he tried to run and get away. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, you shouldn't be running from a cop, but here's the thing. If I'm a black man and I'm seeing what's happening in America, I'm going to think I'm dying tonight, right? Like, I understand, like, the fear. I can't even begin to understand, but I can see where that's coming from.
You got the Matt Johnson one up. You got the one right here. You had the 205.
It's 205 Brooks shooting declared.
Yeah. That's when they talk to him, right? Right before they handcuff him?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go up a little bit, it's 205, John.
Sorry, there's a lot on that. And so the officers, of course, were saying that they feared for their life because he ran off with a weapon. He ran off with a weapon, but the weapon, the taser, the tasers are not in Georgia. In Georgia in particular, they're not counted as weapons. Okay, they're not lethal weapons. So you can't have it both ways, is what they say. So let's just play the video to give you guys a clue as to how this went. Got it.
Okay. Go ahead, fam. I mean, this is what I saw this before. I mean, the things that I question too as well is that did they have to really arrest him if he pulled into a spot?
Well, even if they arrested him, they didn't have to kill him, right? Like they could have just detained him, like done anything else but shooting him in the back, right? And then you're seeing his interaction with the officer. There he goes. Then they're tasing him. He's trying to get away. He takes a taser, runs off, and then that's when they shoot him, and you guys will see it here.
Wow.
Okay, so you guys can see that they're talking about, he's going to talk about the taser right now, how it's not considered a weapon, lethal weapon.
And it's really, I mean, when people get tased, they can fall down, they can have a fucking seizure, they can hit their heads really hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, but I understand, like, I'm a black man in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, we know what happens in Georgia. I mean, we've, you know, Niko House can talk to you about Georgia and how that is, you know?
Yeah.
And so I understand why running away, obviously, it wasn't the best thing to do. Yeah. But either way,
so they're saying he ran with the taser, and that's why they shot him.
For their life. Because
he had a taser and stuff.
But the lawyer is arguing, but this isn't considered a deadly weapon, and officers all the time argue that it's not a deadly weapon because they're the ones using it on people.
But they tase people all the time, and it's bullshit, and they shouldn't be able to. It's so weird because we had that whole tasing phase where we saw kids across America for no reason just getting tased.
Yeah.
And we had a situation where somebody died from a taser. He got tased so many times.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, like you said, you can't have it both ways. The guy told him, it's plain and simple. Is it a deadly weapon or not? You say it's not a deadly weapon, you can use it all the time with no repercussions. But now, when a guy gets it, you want to say it's a deadly weapon. So I understand that right now.
Yeah, that's a really good legal argument for the prosecution.
Can't have it both ways, he said.
Exactly. So another thing that happened was, of course, the protesters started really going after the police officers. Then they took over the highways, they stopped traffic, and there was a Wendy's that was burned. Okay. Yeah. So the Wendy's was burned and people were cheering and excited, and you know, it was kind of a symbolic thing. But what actually happened was that the person that actually burned the Wendy's turned out to be a white woman. And there's video here of her burning the Wendy's, which, I mean, I don't think anybody's against that. I mean, at this point, but a lot of people were blaming the protesters. And it says video appears to show white women setting fire to Wendy's in Atlanta, where Rayshard Brooks was killed, as black protesters shout, "It wasn't us," and cops offer $10,000 to track her down. So it's just kind of funny that it turned out to be this white woman.
Look at this white girl. Look at a white girl trying to set on fire. Look at a white girl trying to burn down the Wendy's. This wasn't us. This wasn't us.
So it's just funny. I mean, if it, it's just funny. It's just funny. But that's
It's such a stupid slippery slope too, as well. She could have been done at the behest of anybody. You know what I'm saying? But it's done. But we witnessed a lot of that stuff where we saw a lot of the people, a lot of the mainstream media in the very beginning, a lot of the police trying to blame the actual Black Lives Matter protesters and organizers and say they're the ones who were inciting looting, when in fact they were stopping the looting, whatnot. So I mean,
And so this brings me to Victorville, California, which is, I don't know, maybe like what, an hour and 20 hour?
About an hour and 25.
Hour and 20 something away from here.
Victorville is
It's between
dirty.
Vegas and here. It's between like Vegas and here, a little closer to here than Vegas, but still pretty much up there.
It's on the way there.
And it's a lot of suburbs, a lot of houses like that. And of course, they initially had ruled this death a homicide. Okay, they had said that this man was found in a tree, and he was found hanging in this tree. And
they said it was a suicide.
Yeah, but this is 2 weeks after they found his body near the Victorville City Library, and this is San Bernardino County, so this is not LA County. And they were saying they investigated. There was no indications at the scene that suggested foul play, but the way the cause and manner of the death are still pending. And I just wanted to point out that the LA Times had this report that the family also said they were told that Harsh, who was the one that was murdered, was 6'3", wasn't dangling from the tree, and that there was blood on his shirt. At the same time, there did not appear to be any evidence at the scene to suggest a struggle. They also noted that his body at the San Bernardino County Coroner's Office, his body sat there for 12 days.
That's the part that's really puzzling. I mean, as a certified TV doctor, is a body sitting at a coroner's office for 12 days?
No, that's not normal.
That's
Especially
not normal.
if right away they ruled it a suicide, and then they kept the body for 12 days.
That
so they're
makes no
trying to
sense.
figure out how to, it really instills distrust in the police, and they're denying that there was any foul play right now in Victorville. So it's interesting because this one didn't get a lot of media attention at all until Palmdale came out. So the gentleman that was murdered in Palmdale, that was the one where they started looking and realizing, oh my God, there was another one. So as people were realizing that there was another man murdered in Palmdale, they also saw another lynching in Victorville. So even though this happened after the Victorville, this was the one that led to people actually knowing about it. And so this is in LA County, of course, and people are still looking for answers. His name was Robert Fuller, and his body was found Wednesday in the Ponsitlin, I don't know what that.
Where?
Ponsitlin Square. It's like
What is that word?
I don't know. I don't know how to say
Oh.
it, but it was in Palmdale, and it was deemed a likely suicide again, based on the preliminary findings. And
Outside City Hall.
yeah, which is to me a red flag right away, right?
Sorry, my
Outside
mic was off. It was outside City Hall.
Okay.
I went with Tina actually.
Okay, you guys went down there and saw this stuff. You
Yeah.
got pictures and stuff to show us,
Yeah,
Johnny?
I
or-
got some video here.
All
So
right.
this is when we first arrived in the car looking for parking. People were marching.
Together we are. Together we are. Are we gonna let fear overtake us? No. Are we gonna give up? No. What do we want? Justice. 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 Name up. Forward. Forward.
Yeah, there was a lot of emotions. I captured a lot on my the new camera,
Mhm.
but I left that footage with Tina actually. But here's some footage I captured with my phone. So this protest, started with like this group of people. It was about like 150, 200 people,
Mhm.
nearing 300. And then another group of protesters actually came through and joined them. And they were Black Lives Matter protesters. And the crowd was huge. The crowd was huge.
Yeah.
So that's when there was like thousands of people
Yeah.
out there. They decided to go marching, and then that's when police went to the sheriff department showed up with riot shield gear and the helicopter swirling around, and I have that footage in the other camera. But I had got the chance to interview an anonymous woman who was talking to mainstream media, telling them that the sheriffs aren't doing a good enough investigation into this. So let's listen to what she says.
Owners of those businesses, they tell me it has been taped over, and that one of the owners had reviewed the video and saw cars driving by between midnight and 5 a.m. And if we had seen those cars and could identify those cars, maybe somebody in those cars saw something. Maybe somebody in those cars participated in this.
Right.
That would have been huge.
So when they originally came out with the story, they said that there was no cameras?
They said there was no video, and I don't fault them for that, but they should have been more specific. Maybe there's no video in the park. Maybe there's no video right where this happened. But I understand that. That's not the question. The question is there any video within a certain radius, that would identify these people or identify him coming alone that would have solved this? And instead they said, no video, and they throw their hands up in the air and they stop. And that's not how you investigate either a suicide or a murder. You don't stop just because there's no camera pointing at that tree.
So the investigation, you're saying, is poor right now on the behalf of the sheriff department, basically.
If I were investigating a death, I would have closed down the scene and canvassed the area, and I believe that to be proper protocol. And if the sheriffs canvassed the area and decided nothing was important to them, then maybe this death isn't important to them.
Thank you so much. So basically, the business owners had video, but the sheriffs didn't even go on the first day. Like, they didn't go to any of these businesses. And then, you know what else is another thing? Is that on Twitter, there's a board of soups on Twitter. A day after Robert Fuller was found hanging from a tree in Palmdale, instead of using Twitter to ask if anyone saw anything or ask local businesses to save their security footage, the LA sheriffs in Palmdale were trying to find the owner of this dog. If anyone lost a dog, please contact the Palmdale Sheriff Station. This little guy walked up into the front door of our lobby and he doesn't have a collar.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I got to go see Alex Villanueva, don't I?
Yeah.
We got to go speak to Alex Villanueva.
Well, they had a press conference today, but really quickly, Johnny, I just want to say there is the one thing I wanted to read from that report was that there are ties to between police and neo-Nazi groups being reported.
Now, yes. So Tina was telling me that the Peckerwoods are a big dominant neo-Nazi group out there.
Right.
Now, Tina actually found some protesters who said that they saw a white man who had the black-white stripe and then a cursive P jacket on, and he was watching from afar the protest. But, you know, that's just really speculation of you know what that was.
Allison I says, hi, fam. Thanks for the coverage. Great coverage, Johnny. Way to get down there with Tina. And thank you, Tina, for getting down there and getting those opinions, what's going on. I think a lot, we have to find out a lot remains to be seen. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times I think that these things are like more sinister than just race. You know what I'm saying? I believe that a lot of these groups are paid off to do these things, to try to spark something. Like the oligarchs, the elites might be like, maybe it is just straight hate and they just hung somebody because they hate him. Yeah. We don't know, but a lot of times it seems like these things are very calculated and it's fucking kind of weird. And in the way the police department is ignoring people's footage that can see all these cars or anything that went on.
I just want to know what would happen if we found like a white woman hanging from a tree. I mean, let's be honest here. There's obvious racial motivations driving this, and like like lynching historically, like that's something that happened in America that not that long ago.
Everyone there was like, there's no way he committed
suicide. Yeah. I mean, I have a hard time believing that.
I caught some footage of some of the black protesters there, family members, the best friends, and they're saying, like, why would a black man hang himself
right
in
now?
That same way? That's historically they hang they
lynch.
lynch.
If you hang yourself, it's usually in your closet, in your room, like something like that. Like it doesn't make sense someone how would you be able to maneuver that too?
What kind of message would you be sending if you're hanging yourself there? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't make sense to me. If somebody's really depressed and whatnot, they usually do it in a spot where their family finds it, and it's kind of, even in a suicide, it's very personal,
right?
Because they're trying to send a message to the people who they felt, didn't love them, or what sense. But to hang yourself out in the middle of nowhere, I mean, we need transparency, we need answers, we need the police department to do a good job. The sheriff's department really need to get the fuck on this.
The investigation has been off from the beginning, though, because that woman was right. Like, if you're investigating something for real, you're not gonna like go and completely dismiss everything that was happening there. You've already tarnished like the scene. You've already dismissed it, so now going back is a lot more difficult.
And then here's some footage of when, so the protesters started marching, right, on the streets and started disrupting traffic, right, which is what protests should do. So the sheriff department came out in SWAT gear. So they came out.
I command you in the name of the people of the state of California. We are the people of California! We are the people of California!
So in the helicopter, they were saying, by the order of the people of California, we want you to get off the street. And then people are like, we are the people of California.
Yeah.
Well, where the movement is going from here is really, it's important, because I see a lot of co-option going on. I see people trying to pivot people to vote for Joe Biden and all this other shit, trying to blame Trump. And I don't know. I just hope that we can get something positive. Really, I mean, what do we really want to march for? What do we need, fam? What do you think? You say about taking
Trump does have a lot of blame. Trump does have a lot of blame.
I understand that. But we're going to put Joe Biden in office, the guy who wrote the crime bill and stuff. The guy's the face of imperialism.
Everyone just say go vote, and then I'm like,
exactly.
Well, don't go vote for Biden.
Right.
I want to hear people say vote for third party.
Well, that's why we're here, to educate people that even though Trump has a lot of fault for this, it doesn't mean that Joe Biden's going to solve any of these problems. Because Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. Joe Biden, which Bill Clinton signed into law, and which then, of course, initiated the tough on crime stance that has been perpetuated throughout the years. However, in saying that, though, we can't deny what's happening right now in front of us. That can't be at all denied, that this is very real.
And they must be brought to heel. It doesn't matter where they came from or what they did. They must be brought to heel,
Yeah. I mean, I just think, it's the system that's obviously the problem. But at the same time, there are racial issues that this country has not dealt with. And if we think about it, it's only been 60 years since this has happened. I mean, since we had like the civil rights movement, even less than that. Yeah. And so it's really not that long ago. It's only a couple generations. And so we have a very unique problem that other countries don't have. Like, particularly countries like democratic socialist countries in the Netherlands, they don't have that. They don't have the population issue, that like the black population and the white population like that. They have other issues with immigrants coming in, but they don't have like the history we do. So we can't dismiss it. They're both racism and economic despair are two arms of the oligarchy. Yeah. And it is just a waste of time to talk about which is important. I think we have to.
But one is being recognized and one is not, and that's the big issue that I have. So everybody's saying that we the common people can solve this ourselves, when it's not us who are pulling the strings; it's the oligarchs. So I understand. I just got off the phone with my friend in Boca Raton. We kind of got in a little debate because he was praising Obama, and this was a friend of mine, a man of color, John Alexander, who used to be so awesome. Everybody loved him, and he was that great guy. And I kind of I'm like, John, why are you celebrating Obama and stuff? And he was but Trump. And then when we got into the discussions, we have to also explain that, who's really pulling the strings? Who has the power? That's my problem out there. What I see in the street is a lot of people are pointing the finger at each other rather than not saying that, okay, we also have something in common. It's the elites who exploit us, who make us talk about our differences, because that's their number one weapon, is divide and conquer.
Sure, but if you it just comes off as dismissing what is happening.
I don't care how it comes off, because everybody's saying it comes off in a certain way. That's not the truth, because not everybody thinks that way. You should point at groups and say, these people are fucking racist people, whatnot. But, a lot of people have not been racist, whatnot, and they understand that they're also being exploited, and that's not realized by everybody in the group.
Right.
I mean,
but you're not going to get those people to listen to you if you don't listen to what is happening in front of you right now.
I think we've been listening. I think a lot of people have been listening. That's why we see a lot of white faces out there and a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
These tactics, fam, that we're talking about, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, that seems a lot coming from people in control who want to keep us divided, rather than saying, okay, well, who's really exploiting the freedoms Who's making money off everybody being in jail?
Who's
You know what I'm
making
saying?
money off of these protesters right now? Like, are you saying these protesters are making money?
No. I'm saying who's making money off everybody's misery? Black men are jailed in this country
Right.
higher. Well,
Sure.
who's making money at the end of the day? Is it the common white guy that's doing it, or is it an elite oligarch?
It's an elite
who
oligarch
profits off that
who
system?
tends to be white.
They
But
don't
yeah.
even who tends to be white. But see, that's that language.
But
who
it's
tends to be white.
but it's the truth.
Yeah, but fam,
Why
I
do we
can't
get
go into
defensive
No, I'm not
about
getting
it?
a meeting. I'm just saying we're talking about the differences because I have no control over Jeff Bezos.
Sure,
I have no control,
but you have
over
control
George Soros.
over
Yeah.
everything else here.
Which
that
with
you
the
can
people who don't, no, not really, a little bit. I mean, we can always put my power, but I don't have as much. Poor people don't have any power. They don't have any control. We can come out in masses and we can talk
Right,
about
that's
those
what I
things.
mean.
But at the end of the day, whether that guy's white, black, whatever, he's profiting off of people's misery.
I don't think
and
anybody's
people
denying
don't
that.
Yeah, they don't even know these people.
Some people don't know. That's the thing.
They don't even
but
know
in
their
order,
names, fam.
But in order for them to understand that, this is what a lot of young people are starting to see, and they're seeing this, and that's going to take them to understand the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Especially if our voices are out there. But if we're going to look down on what's happening and dismiss it as, okay, this is just a manipulation by blah, 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 then they're not going to learn that. They're going to think you're against them. So there's a way to do that. I think there's a way to like educate people about what the bigger, like what the core problem is, but you can't dismiss what's happening. And I see like, there's like all these battles on Twitter, like, oh, but it's class. And it's like, yes, class is obviously a huge issue, but you can eliminate class tomorrow and the racism will still there. Same as you can eliminate the racism tomorrow and the class issue will still be there. So you can't just say one is bigger than the other.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying one is not being recognized, one is not being talked about. Mainstream media doesn't highlight those
Of course
things.
they don't.
And that's why we
we're here.
have a channel and stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I said this before. If we eliminated race, you know what I'm saying, the oligarchs would find a way to divide us between the sizes of our ears or our nose. There are always going to be a group of people trying to exploit the rest of the people for the natural resources
And if we
on the
eliminated
planet.
economics, the same thing. There'd still be racist people. I mean, I 100% believe that. There would still be
Racism
people,
is taught. Racism, we're not born being racist. It's taught. And we have to unteach it.
Capitalism promotes that divide. It's two arms of the same issue of the oligarchy.
But here's the thing. The reason why we're talking about this today, too, is we're going to talk about Obama. But when you get to say it's about black or white issues, then you excuse a person just because he is black, like Obama, and he gets in and he destroys everything.
Sure.
And he continues the ways of the oligarchs, which were rooted in racism to control people.
Of
And he
course.
continued that. So that's why it's important, because I saw it yesterday, fam. Happy Obama Day, happy Obama Day, happy Obama Day. So it tells me that we gotta work on both ends. And I'm not saying that one isn't as important as the other one. To me, I just don't think people are recognizing there are a group of elitists in this world who are pulling the strings, taking all the natural resources and keeping everybody pitted at each other. So therefore, they can keep all those resources.
I don't
keep
think,
everybody poverty.
yeah, and I just don't think you can get there until people start seeing this, because not everybody knows what we know. Not everybody is as aware as we are. So they're gonna take these steps to get there. We can't expect people to automatically see the big picture, because not everybody is like we are, and not everybody. I mean, even Congress people we interview, not all of them are know enough about the things they know. It's very true.
Cory Booker stands behind the OAS.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, do you have anything to say?
People of color and,
Do you have anything to say? I just want to hear your opinion. Too.
Recognize both.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, and what the only thing that Fee is saying is that when you say that, you just gotta say before that yes, I recognize the plight and everything
right.
like that.
Yeah.
So
I hear you, and I mean, well, everybody who watches this channel knows how we get out there, how we're activists. They know how we stand and stuff. But you yourself too, Johnny, when you get on that microphone, you're like, it's hard to talk about foreign policy at these things, and that really has a lot to do with them, because the most racist thing we can do as a country is going around and bombing indigenous people in their homeland, and nobody's even aware of that. Nobody even understands that Obama increased that drone-wise, and when you
100%.
increase your drone program, you increase civilians, innocent people getting killed. So, I mean, when I do speak of this, I don't speak of this as hey, I'm getting mistreated poorly. I'm speaking of this as, hey, we got to also realize together we have a lot in common, and the elites are robbing us blind, and they're keeping people divided. And that's what, when we talk about groups like Black Lives Matter, I love the movement. I understand the message. We understand all lives matter, how it came into play. It's like, yeah, but not all lives are equally at risk, and you're ignoring that and stuff like that. But the organization is different than the actual movement and the message, right? So, I mean, when people have been out there all on Twitter saying, well, they took money from George Soros, we got to go out there and say, guys, they're not motivated by George Soros. Everybody we met in the Black Lives Matter organization was peaceful and tried to keep it peaceful.
Yeah.
But as an organization, you still have to speak to that, and that's going to cause room for a concern when you're taking people's money like that. And that's something that it's going to come into play. Now, both sides are trying to twist that. But, I mean, where do we go? We have to have discussions about these things.
I mean, I see only the right trying to twist that it's all, like, fundamentally, like, created to blah, blah, blah. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about later on how things are being pushed up in the media. Because we saw how the media was painting the protesters as violent, as blah, blah, blah. And it's wrong. So, again, like, people are falling for that mainstream media propaganda as well. Okay, so there have been a couple of protests, of course, that have been growing stronger. People thought this was going to die out. It really hasn't. So there was one in Beverly Hills Friday night where the protesters were actually tear gassed. And this is the thing. It wasn't even BLM. It was like Occupy BLM. And this was, let me see. They identified itself as Occupy BLM. And this is the Beverly Hills Police Department used tear gas and sponge-tipped grenades at protesters at around 11 p.m. Friday night. And they were there. They were trying to have like speeches and poetry and pretty much draw the attention of rich people, because at the last huge protest Johnny and I were both in, there was talk about going into Beverly Hills to make these rich people hear. And I like that, because I'm like, yeah, these people need to understand, because a lot of them kind of cocoon themselves away in their houses and they don't want to listen. So I think it's a really great idea to go into Beverly Hills. And Beverly Hills is always super, super protected by the police. It's like they don't care. You could go to Hollywood, downtown LA, but you go to Beverly Hills and trust me, they'll send the whole squadron there. They'll totally protect them. And so then they issued recently a not a curfew, but like after 11 p.m. nobody's allowed there because of quiet laws. Let me remind everybody, Beverly Hills is a reason we don't have a good transportation system to the west side, because they refused to let the subway, the metro, go underneath because it went through Beverly Hills High, and the parents said the kids were going to be scared that a metro went underneath the high school.
It's also, they didn't want to stop there for people coming in from East LA to stop out and get out in Beverly Hills so easily too. That's another reason why they won't tell you that.
And if I were like running this protest, Beverly Hills would be on fire. Because they would, I mean, the amount of wealth you see there right now is disgusting, because we're seeing more and more tent cities pop up, and then you see people like on Rodeo Drive. I mean, Louis Vuitton would be on fire. I'm not going to tell you guys my whole plan, but that's what I would be doing. Louis
Vuitton is Italian.
Whatever, pasta. Just because Italians are white too. Just kidding. And then of course there was a West Hollywood protest for kind of pride, and it wasn't led by BLM, because I think they didn't get the approval. It was West Hollywood and a couple of voices that were really vocal about what was happening. And a lot of Black people have spoken that in the gay community, and this is where we get like really, shifty, because in the gay community they feel pushed out. A lot of they were calling out their friends, like, not enough gay people have been coming out and standing with us. And that was what the article was talking about. Like, we don't have enough space here. We don't feel like we're welcomed. And I've seen that and I'm not trying to trash the gay community at all. But there is a sense of elitism in West Hollywood, and a lot of people get away with it just because they're gay. And we've seen that happen in the Democratic Party as well.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of calling it out, and I thought that was good. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, there is like that, we're just going to go out here and have our thing, and this is our plight, and we need to combine issues. Like, that's how we grow. It's like, it's not my issue or your issue, right? But there has to be more of an understanding, and I think that was the point. There's a Twitter thread where there's some pictures, Johnny, below that you can show of what it looked like yesterday. And they started on Hollywood and Highland, I believe, and then they marched all the way to West Hollywood. And there was a lot of people there, thousands of people there. And it's pretty awesome to see that. So yesterday also on our way, where Eva and I, we ran into we were trying to find the protesters, and then when we found them, when we were getting ready to finally go get food, they stopped traffic on the 101. And these protesters were really smart, and I really liked how they did it. Very, very good organizing. I would actually recommend people do it because they stopped traffic on the 101 southbound, and then they moved away. So they stopped traffic, they spoke, they said their piece. People weren't even mad. People were like, yeah, in support. And then they let the cars go. They went somewhere else. That is smart. I think that should be done throughout. Like, yeah, do different highways, do whatever. And also the cops, by the time they get to you, you're already gone.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really smart.
Johnny
we have
Video.
a couple videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got Johnny Video. Eva Video.
Eva Video.
Eva Vids. On the next Lost.
People were just more excited to listen to what they were saying. And they were angry.
Every day we have to make decisions. Calculated decisions on where we go. Think about that.
The police hadn't gotten there yet. They were slow to get there. And there was people watching from the bridges on both ends. This is Hollywood, and we were going southbound. The GPS was taken. And I got stuck there. And I was like, yeah, okay. This is what I love this.
That's the first time we've been on a highway walking around with a video camera.
Motorcycle just.
He should have gone slow.
People are like honking in
Okay.
support. It's really cool.
So they stop traffic, fam, because they want people to be frustrated and understand what
yeah.
they're going through, their suffering, how they feel. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I think that's a great thing when they do that stuff.
Yeah.
Because we said this from the get-go, from the first BLM protest we went to, all they wanted to do was stop traffic. They didn't want to incite violence. They didn't want to loot. They didn't want to go after cops. They just wanted to stop traffic. They came to a conclusion. They spoke, and all the organizers left. What happens after, or what breaks apart, that really wasn't there in the first place, that's what's being twisted, is that it's part of these
Right.
movements. It's really not the truth.
Nothing happened here. Shortly after, I had to go get gas because I was running low. So we were gonna come back and watch. And like, they let us through. Basically, they left. I went to get gas and I was gonna follow them, and then they had left, and then they found me again, and they were right there.
Okay.
So they kept going. They kept moving, and this is what we were talking about last time. How do you avoid getting corralled and arrested? You keep moving. That was what they were doing in
Well, they learn.
Yeah.
Everybody's learning. I love the fact that we can use the CIA tactics against them. That's because you think about the Hong
What else
Kong, and they're
are we
very
gonna do?
organized, and they were
Yeah.
like, somebody was like, I'm so amazed what they were doing, and it's like, you think they're just doing that and plotting together as citizens against Beijing and Red China. It's not the truth. They've been funded by the CIA, and they've taken all these tactics into play. But their cops over there in Hong Kong are a lot less violent than our cops, and you better believe that shit.
Which is crazy since they're so authoritarian.
Yeah, they're so authoritarian.
So there's I wanted to show what's going on in New York, and just this little video of what happened.
I'm from New York, Long Island.
Long Island. Yeah, your people, fam.
They're my peeps.
Don't touch him! 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 He's not resisting! He's not resisting! He's not resisting!
Okay, I just want to read what happened, because basically what happened was this protester was out there and he wasn't doing anything, and then they just all of them just went on and attacked him. So
He tried to move out of his way.
Yeah.
He tried to move out of his way. They did. You know.
They kneeled on his neck and had about 6 officers holding him down, according to the bystanders that were there. And it's interesting because the reason I want to point that out, obviously, George Floyd was killed by a knee to his neck.
Now look at the police officer walking in his way. He's just trying to walk out of his way. I mean, how do you not say that that's the police's fault? And that's that's just disgusting right there. You cannot do that.
I mean,
you cannot say that to anybody.
It's a power thing too. That's the thing. They have no accountability for anything they do. anybody else does that, you will be arrested and prosecuted. Police have a bigger power, and that needs to change. This is why people are talking about systemic change.
He's stopping. He's getting in his way. He's trying to push back. He's guilty of sin. They caused that problem right there. Right there. Right there. All those police officers right there. What are you talking about? They should have been out in the street there protesting, doing that shit. Bullshit.
It's
this
American
is when people
right.
say F the police, and they're right. Right there.
It's an American constitutional right to protest. I mean, if we love the Constitution, you have to love your First Amendment rights.
But you're kneeling, fam.
So the ACLU obviously is one of the reasons why they stopped the curfews in California. People started suing the police too, the LAPD in particular, and African countries are now calling for an urgent meeting by the UN Human Rights Council to look into police brutality and violence against peaceful protests. I wish they would do the same for our elections too, because this is like very, it's like, yes, it needs to happen. 54 countries in Africa, by the way. But China. And
that's what we're looking at, right?
This is after the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, Michael Brown were supported by 650 groups, including the U.S. Human Rights Network.
Yeah.
And there we are. So that's what's happening right now.